So yesterday was a great day, period. On top of my daughter making it to the apprenticeship, I get to work last night, and my patient, who I was hoping would be removed from the ventilator, was off the vent, and that was a great feeling because it was really, really touch and go. He had some serious cardiac issues and was put on an Impella device, and he did not do well immediately after they removed it. So when they took the tube out yesterday, he was speaking in Spanish. So the respiratory therapist had to go get the nurse who speaks Spanish, and in some very colorful Mexican slang, the first words out of this man's mouth were, "I want to go home and have intimate relations with my wife," and it was more colorful than that. It made the nurse blush. He couldn't even repeat it to the therapist, and the nurse was like embarrassed to even repeat it to the doctor. And the doctor said, "Well, that's good." So I don't think I've ever had that comment before when a patient was removed from a ventilator. But yep, he really missed his wife, and his definitely had to drive to breathe all night. He was hollering all night long, and I don't speak hardly any Spanish, especially slang. But I'm pretty sure it was probably, "I want to go home to my wife." So that was really, really great because this is my first patient successfully off the vent that didn't wind up back on the ventilator, like my gentleman did up in New Jersey. So this is my first. I've been on the road for 2.5 months, and I got to graduate one of my patients last night to the non-COVID ICU, 62 days on the ventilator. It took that long to test negative twice. So COVID hangs around, and the thing is, it's with the PCR test, which is the replication test. And if your body has broken down, and this is where I think it was a lady by the last name of, I think it was Barbara Cahill. I was sent the YouTube video the other night, and I was watching it, and like the first 11 minutes were great. She's got a lot of credentials. And then she started in about how COVID is through your system in 10 days. And I'm like, really? Tell that to the patients in my ICU who, have been there for 2 months. So then there was a lot of bullshit to that story. And then the individual who sent me the video also sent me a debunking article that somebody saved me the hassle of having to go and do, because I fell asleep yesterday morning listening to it. And like I said, the first 11 minutes were believable until I got to that 11-minute mark, and she started talking about how it's, through the body and the immune system in 10 days. And I'm like, dude, yeah, no. So we got to graduate that patient last night, and that felt really good. So, hi, Lynn. So, yes, it was a great day yesterday, a good day last night, and I hope to have more good days. I would be happy to remove some of the patients from the vent, but the ones that we have left are pretty sick. And it's unfortunate, but this gentleman definitely, another thing that's really strange here, and I don't know what the difference is, but a lot of the patients up in New Jersey, good morning, Tracy, they had really super duper thick blood. So when I would go to draw the blood, it would be like syrup. Like maybe molasses would be a better term. And it would clot when I was drawing the blood. And here, I haven't had a single problem with that. Still a Hispanic, large Hispanic a patient population. We had several African Americans up in New Jersey too, just because of the population density. But here, everybody's Hispanic. I don't know. I mean, one of the blood syringes that I drew this morning was almost like water. I don't see a huge difference in how we're managing fluids or anything. So it was really interesting to see that observation. So I don't know what other RTs are seeing, or nurses. If you would get back to me, that would be great. definitely encourage, because I'm very curious as to what the difference is and why these patients have blood that I can draw. I mean, when I was up in New Jersey, even using the ultrasound machine, just to find the artery, it was like it would clot going into the tube. So that it is weird. It's very weird. But it's an observation I've made. We do a little bit different strategies with the ventilator here, but that's not going to affect the blood. But I do see a lot more consistency with how the patients respond. Up there, they were using pressure control at first, and then they switched over to volume control. Here, we kind of use a combination of the both, but lower PEEP, which is what was damaging the lungs. So there are a few different things here along with the blood, but that's not going to affect the blood. But it's pretty interesting, actually. Well, no, we were thinking possibly the alcohol, because unfortunately in the Hispanic culture, that tends to be the drug of choice, is alcohol. And that does thin the blood. So, but we had a lot of alcoholics in New Jersey too. It's really interesting. I don't know if it's maybe the altitude. I have no idea. I'm definitely going to reach out and start asking some questions. We really watch the fluid management with these patients, because we don't want to overload them, because it can cause more problems with oxygenation. But they really weren't overloaded, and if they were overloaded, I mean, their blood should be thinner with more fluids. So we really restrict the amount of fluid. So it's really curious. It's definitely piqued my interest, because I have had no problem getting my blood gases every morning on my vent patients. Actually, the one person I had a problem getting it from this morning was a walking, talking, breathing on their own patient, and I couldn't get blood from her if it was like trying to stick a rock. It wasn't happening, but my vent patients were perfectly fine. Very interesting. I'm very curious to see, because I don't notice much difference with the medications that we're giving them, and everybody up in New Jersey was on a heparin drip. So that should thin the blood more. And the patients here are, I don't think a single one's on a heparin drip right now that I have. And I had 5 vent patients yesterday. So that's really interesting, actually. Well, alcohol thins the blood. So it makes it easier to bleed. Like my ex-husband, he can't drink because he's got thrombocytopenia. And if he drinks, it actually his blood will start to come through the skin. So it does definitely thin the blood. But it's the same patient population, lots of Hispanics. Up in New Jersey, it was kind of 50-50 between the Hispanic and the African Americans. I have not had a single white person on the ventilator. It's probably a lot different in Michigan. But personally, for me, I have not had a single one. Not a one. It might just be the hospital system that I'm at, but here on the border. Oh, that's my son. He's going to keep calling and calling and calling. It's okay. We're going to talk about camping stuff. I got my Amazon shopping cart full of stuff for camping. I also had, I also put in there, for my craft shows, I can put walls on the canopy, and that way I can hang stuff from it. So I ordered some of those too. But these children, they don't stop calling when you decline it, no matter what. But yeah, hi Danny, hi Aunt Deb. So yeah, it is really interesting with the heparin. Now that I think about it, I do not have any patients on a heparin drip. All their blood is very thin, which is opposite of what I've seen in New Jersey, and they were all on heparin drips. All sorts of other blood thinners too, and it was like sludge. So really curious. They still have the same high ferritin levels, the LDH, the D-dimers, all those numbers are still really high. They have all the inflammatory markers that we see with COVID, but it's completely different here. So it makes me very happy to see this because I've actually had more. We actually condensed. We had the ICU where I am at, and then they had the floor patients that were up walking, talking, and not needing intensive care, but they brought everybody downstairs. So now everybody's in the ICU, even if they're not in an ICU bed, but we're all together now. So those numbers in a way are reducing, but what's happening is we need more ICU beds and we don't have enough. So we're trying to change and be flexible with what's happening, but a lot of these COVID patients who are no longer positive are still in the hospital. So this is really taking a hit to the system. A lot of these people are winding up with fibrosis. There are fibrotic changes in the lungs, which is going to cause problems down the line. They might recover from this, they might be a survivor from this, but the damage that has been caused by the virus and the lack of oxygen and what they've been through is causing pulmonary fibrosis, which is still a miserable situation to have down the line. The only cure for pulmonary fibrosis when you're dying from it is a lung transplant. Your lungs cannot get oxygen. It's almost like if you can imagine scar tissue from like a burn and how gnarly it is and thick and you can't do anything with it, it's not flexible, that's what happens to the lungs. So it's really going to be interesting to see how many patients I have in 20 years who are having breathing difficulties from pulmonary fibrosis who were COVID survivors. So I do see a problem with that down the line. I did purchase the study material for my adult critical care credential examination, so I'm hoping in the next few months that I know I'm ready to take it. I know I'll pass it if I do, but I'm a perfectionist and I just want to get the highest score possible. So I did take care of that. Yeah, I'm going to be taking a very nice vacation from late July until the end of August. So all those protesters are not going to be getting my help. I'm still just in shock as to what this country is coming to. And we still need to be safe. We still need to practice social distancing. There was a private school, high school, they just started up practices, and one of the kids tested positive for COVID. So it is going around still. I don't know how intelligent sports are going to be right now because kids don't practice social distancing ever, not even in the house when you tell them to go to your room. They can't socially distance themselves from anything. So I really don't know how I feel about high school sports starting up right now. I just don't think a contact sport, there's been soccer teams in Mexico who have tested positive. And those are adults. So we really need to be super duper cautious here. That doesn't mean don't go live your life. We can't sit around and live in fear from protesters, from COVID. But what we need to be is conscientious and of everything, of everybody. These protesters, they're going to be taking that stuff home to their family. There's going to be loved ones who are sick that had nothing to do with protests that are going to wind up contracting the virus because of it. Arizona, like I said, they're seeing spikes. Texas is still spiking. California really has never leveled off. So these are all warm areas right now. That's kind of interesting because I thought heat was supposed to kill this. So everybody's out in the heat right now and apparently transmitting it. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I hopefully will be catching updates from the Grand Canyon and Yellowstone because I am running away. I am running far, far away. But I'm happy that I have finally a patient who could talk to me. Whether or not it was in Spanish, telling me he wanted to have relations with his wife. But it was great that he woke up and remembered his wife because he had some brain infarcts that happened After they took the Impella device out, his blood pressure skyrocketed and he had some mini strokes. So if I get it, I'm opting to stay home. No hospital at risk, 3 different ways. So yeah, if you really can't breathe and you need oxygen, I mean, the supportive care that they are giving, I watched a few patients get out of my unit. They went to the floor, they were downgraded, they did great. It really all depends on the facility you're at and the determination, because these patients that have cooperated with proning, that's been very important very early on. As soon as you start having shortness of breath, it's really important to start proning. And they've been using this for years, long before this became a popular thing. But flipping over onto your belly and sleeping like that and staying there for 8 to 12 hours a day helps to move that fluid, and that's a really important thing that you can do on your own. But if your body needs oxygen, you need oxygen. You can't go without that, because your heart and brain function off of that, and they are the first organs that suffer. Nurse tracks hospital's response. Hang on, where's my remote? They're interviewing a nurse, but they got her face.
Welcome to the show. This is much needed information. I want to start with, thank you for being here, and start with
Interesting.
non-COVID patients.
They're interviewing a nurse who's tracking a hospital's response. Hospital didn't properly isolate patients. So that's a really big thing. Our hospital, what they did, and what happened in many of these hospitals, this is a nurse and Army veteran, Erin Marie Olszewski. I can pronounce that name because I am Polish. But up in New Jersey, and also here in Laredo, a lot of employees got sick, and it was just because we didn't understand this virus at first and we didn't know the proper precautions to take. But the response here in Laredo has been phenomenal. What they did, like I said, they isolated. Everybody is down in a COVID unit. It's monitored. You have to shower when you go in and out. You have to change your clothes. They provide all the PPE. But up in New Jersey, they did not do these things. And the hospital employees were wearing their PPE all over the hospital. Gowns that were supposed to be left up in the unit were making it down to our department. Several respiratory therapists were infected. I know why. That stuff doesn't happen here in Laredo. It is very, very clean. Like when we moved that patient out last night, even though he was COVID negative, he was coming out of our unit. There was a security guard standing there, and he made sure nobody else came down the hallway. They disinfect the hallways after the patient is transported. There's a huge difference in the handling of the situation, and that's responsible. These other hospitals are not isolating the patients. They're not giving their employees the proper PPE. So, I might have been ridiculed for standing up about that, but it's better my safety. I'm not going to risk my life because a hospital wants to line their pockets. They're not going to pay they don't even want to pay workers' comp when you're out of work because of COVID, because we don't know where you got it. Let me think about that. But my grandson's youth football team started practice last week in Florida. Yeah, I don't think, if it was my children, I really, personally, I don't think this is the time for school sports. The practicing together and the playing together, I would just not be comfortable with that. I'd actually be very concerned, especially in these hard-hit states. Florida had huge spikes, Alabama, Tennessee, all these areas. I don't think it would be, I honestly don't think it was responsible to start the school sports, at least right now. Maybe winter we could reevaluate this, but right now, I just don't think so. I really don't think so. Especially like in the sports where you're going to be sweating a lot, your nose is going to run because of allergies and stuff. Those are all mucous membranes. And if you're positive, it's easier to transmit that, Just look at how many football players that you see on the NFL that you can see spray coming out of their mouth, like when they cough or something. That's getting everywhere. I just don't think I would be comfortable with my children playing sports right now. So please keep that in mind. You know, I know it's hard for kids to understand safety, but, you know, especially like if it's a senior year or something like that. But I would really be cautious about that. Oh, yes, because I just got off work and I'm not over in mountain time. Over here in Laredo, we're in central, so I'm only an hour behind you guys on the Eastern time zone. But I'm definitely happy to be awake at night and not working day shift. Let's put it that way, because I'm still very wide awake. I had 8 hours of sleep yesterday. So yeah, I haven't really seen many new updates. I've seen a few of these videos that had to be debunked. But it's going to be very curious to see what happens here in the next week or so because of these protests. And I mean, I just don't know what's going to happen here. I mean, I can take a wild guess. We're all collectively holding our breath in the medical field. Local restaurant here had one employee who tested positive. Exposure was not work related. Owner closed the restaurant, had all employees tested. All were negative. See, that's responsible. Trying to read the rest of the comment, but it's okay. I applaud that business owner. Absolutely, Tracy. I do too. That is a responsible response to something like that. It's just like that farm in Tennessee that is a plantation. 200 employees, one tested positive. When they tested everybody, they were all positive. So everybody was infected by one person. It doesn't take much. So that's really, really responsible for them to do that. I would encourage them to keep doing that. Is not fun. See, with the PCR testing, what they do is they do the swab and it replicates. So even if there is the broken down virus that the immune system has tore apart, the RNA is what they swab for. And even if it's not or not, I don't want to say contagious, even if you're not yeah, I guess contagious would be the right word, but it's not an active infection, it's an old one, you will still test positive. And like I said, it's been 62 days that guy has been on the ventilator, and I think within the past week and a half he's had 2 negative tests, so it's been almost 2 months. So that crazy woman saying, oh, the virus is washed out of your body in 10 days, unbelievable. But I'm sure there's still some folks hanging in there or who are going to be vent dependent for the rest of their lives from the beginning of this. See, it's the middle of June, so middle of April is when I think it was like April 10th he was admitted. So we don't know. We don't. There are like 38 vaccines in the works right now with the vaccines trial tracker website that I shared. If you can't find it on my page because everything gets buried, the RT says what page is easier to find things. I don't post nearly as much there. But you can track the vaccines, and all of them are different approaches to trying to tackle this virus. Some of them, it will protect the individual, but it doesn't protect other people from becoming infected. So those are problems that we all have to look at, work towards. Just be responsible. If you're going into a business, here in Texas, like Walmart requires the workers to wear a mask, but the sign says when you walk in, it's suggested that we wear a mask. Now, it's not like that in all the businesses. Some businesses like Home Depot, my other favorite store next to Hobby Lobby, are requiring that you wear a mask. So try to just do mobile order pickup, things like that. Just stay away from stupidity right now, please. We really don't know what's going to happen. And the best thing to do is to do what we were continuing to do just to stay safe. You can go out and try to enjoy a park, get some fresh air, get out of the house. some way safely that's socially distant from people. Um, Going on play dates to the local park is probably not a good idea. Um, but as a family, get out and do a picnic somewhere, enjoy the river, go fishing. If you have water near you, if we're in the desert, we can't fish. But trails, go trail, try to do like if you have younger kids, try to do like a scavenger hunt on a trail, like see if you can find this and let's see if we can identify these plants. Turn it into a teachable moment. Educate. The world is full of educational opportunities. Use them. But try to enjoy life. Please don't stay hiding in your home. That's not healthy. You do have to get out. As much as I like staying in my house, I also like being out in nature too. So try to do those things. That's my best suggestion right now. But please, if your children are playing sports, please use your better judgment. If you don't think it's a good idea, if it's not right for you and your family, if it's going to put loved ones at risk who you have under your care, your kids are just going to have to deal with the word no. We don't need to be bossed around by teenagers right now. That's not how that works. It's not how any of that works. If it's not suitable for your life, then the answer is no. You can reevaluate again in the winter when things are in full swing with the flu. And we see how this is going to react, because we really don't know at this point in time. I was really not expecting to see these warm weather states with these spikes. I was really thinking it was going to be the Northeast again, Michigan, those areas, and we're not seeing that. I don't understand the warm weather spikes. Maybe just because more people are getting out in that weather. I mean, I don't know. I really hope there's a lot of research going on about this. I can barely keep up with my own life. I should have had Photoshop mastered by now, but I'm only on chapter 5 of like 14 lessons. And I have so much I have to do. So keep these things in mind. Please be safe. It seems like a lot of these restaurants are coming up with some good ideas. They're moving the tables around. They have the one way in, one way out. The restaurant workers are wearing the masks. I mean, get out and try to enjoy your life a little bit. Don't restrict everything that you do. Just make smart choices. If it doesn't look like a safe idea, then don't do it. But try to frequent the businesses that are doing COVID correctly. Those are the folks who need the help. And I did notice on the hotel here, they asked that people not, there's a little sign, not to use the third-party websites like Priceline and Trivago and all that stuff, because the commissions that they charge are very significant. And if you call the hotel, they'll give you a better rate, or they'll give you a lower, a lot better deal. So call your hotel that you're looking at. Look at the price that is offered on whatever website, and then call the hotel, because a lot of these folks have been restricted, like up in some of the really bad areas, to only housing frontline workers and nobody else. So they've been also hard hit as well. So they're definitely going to want you to frequent their businesses. The hotels here have been completely responsible that I have been staying at. Nothing has made me feel uncomfortable. Actually, it's been a good place to socially distance myself, besides my house and everything. You walk down the hallways, they smell of disinfectant. So they're really going above and beyond. So please don't feel that. I've had a lot of questions about the safety of staying in a hotel. So I don't see a problem with it. They've been really, really conscientious about it. So try to enjoy the businesses. They really need your patronage. If you don't feel comfortable eating out, order in. But please get back out and support your small business owners. Some of them have been barely hanging on, and they really, really need you right now. So stay safe. I'm going to get some rest, and I have to go to Best Buy and deal with a broken USB port on my brand new fucking computer. It has not been easy to deal with Best Buy's customer service because you can't call the store because everybody's outside. Um, their chat room has been useless. They keep encouraging you to drive over there. Oh, I'm going to drive over there. Not going to be happy about it. So I'm going to get up early and go deal with that. At least I bought the 2-year protection program and it's still under warranty by the manufacturer. What I don't want to be is without a computer while it's fixed. So I'm going to try to alleviate that problem. So you all have a good morning. I'm going to have a good night and hopefully another great night at work. So that's all I got on COVID for now.